are not ways that are second nature to us. Dr. A.K. Adam of Seabury Weston Theological Seminary writes, "The theological value of patience and gentleness are not obvious to the most prominent streams of contemporary culture. Politicians, with their keen attention to their constituent sympathies, outdo one another in adopting bellicose poses toward enemies, and partisans decry compromises that might alienate their core supporters. Church bodies regularly take their conflicts to secular courts without even a trace of self-conscious penitence or resorting to state power to resolve ecclesiastical problems. Behaviors that most congregations take as self-evidently necessary, James condemns as antithetical to heavenly wisdom." Ouch. The pathway James describes is a pathway that understands that polarizing positions will not lead to happiness. Moral-tainted motives, argumentative tendencies, harsh and intense behaviors, inflexibilities of every kind, prejudices, or two-facedness of any kind. When former Pittsburgh Steeler Lynn Swann achieved the pinnacle of individual success for every National Football League player entrance into the Hall of Fame, he expressed some feelings he had on his mind for a long time. In his book, Keep It Simple, Swann's quarterback, football great Terry Bradshaw, said Swann blamed him for not being voted in sooner. According to Bradshaw, Swann's words on the day of celebration were, "Bradshaw did not seem like he wanted to throw the ball in my direction. He had 4 Super Bowl rings, but could he read secondaries? I doubt it. What made Bradshaw decide not to throw more passes at the end of my career, I have no idea. No idea." Terry Bradshaw commented, "And I kept on thinking how sad it was that he chose what should have been one of the greatest days in his life to create this controversy. Why let the past spoil such a wonderful day? Instead of using that opportunity to release some anger, he should have enjoyed all the honors due him. He should have been thrilled. Before we even know it." Now, I'm so glad I didn't use the Indianapolis Colts. I picked on the Steelers. I just want you to see that, okay? But before we even know it, we can find ourselves walking down that road of folly and miss the happiness God intends for each and every one of us. The way of wisdom is marked by actions which are pure, peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy, without trace of partiality or fox. And then James adds this: "Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom." It was as though James said, let your life be evidence that you have traveled the way of wisdom. Let there be some evidence. Let there be some proof. Travelers on the way of wisdom know that their lives, their actions, what they do often speaks louder than anything we might say or write. I clearly remember the day in a former congregation when my secretary informed me that the church had received a certified letter. That usually means trouble. I quickly got into my car and went to the post office where I had to sign for the letter. I looked at the return address. It was from a lawyer. The knot in my stomach tightened. When I got back to my car, I opened the letter. In the letter was a check for $125,000 from someone I had never heard of. The letter stated that it was part of this unknown woman's estate plan that the church should receive this check to be used in whatever way the church deemed appropriate. I was floored. I'd never seen a check with 3 zeros. When I got back to the church, we locked the check in the safe. For a couple of moments, I thought about hiring a guard to watch the same. But then I started calling some of the members who might remember this woman, but no one did. Finally, someone recalled that our benefactor had owned a little music store near the university and had come to some services back in what must have been the 50s and 60s. Who knows what it is that touched her? But somehow she was moved enough to remember that church in her final plans. Her gift, by the way, was enough to make some permanent changes in that church's future, and that gift continues to give today. That story has been played out again and again in this congregation. Gifts, both great and humble, large and small, have been received from estate plans and wills of our generous members. Some have left bequests that added to our endowment fund, a portion of the interest for which supports our operating budget. Some have left specific gifts, some to the care and maintenance of the building, some to our various mission projects, some to the maintenance and preservation of the organ. Various financial instruments are used, insurance policies, annuities, and outright gifts. The point is that these gifts should be seen as evidence, as proof, as demonstration that there are people who walk in wisdom's way and have found a meaning and happiness to life that eludes all too many. There is a better way than the way we all too often travel. There is a way that leads to the complete and abundant life that Jesus promised. And when we find it, the psalmist says we are like trees that are planted by the water. Our roots can sink deeply into the soil of God's goodness, and we bear fruit that endures. The leaves of those trees catch the glory of God as the leaves of a tree catch the sunlight that gives that tree life. And they prosper, and they are happy. There are two roads, my friends. One leads to frustration and dissatisfaction. The other leads to happiness and content. One leads to envy and disorder. The other leads to peace and gentleness. One leads to animosity and bitterness. The other leads to kindness and benevolence. There it is. A tale of two roads. Which will you travel? Be careful. Your decision matters. It really does. For now